Greetings and thank you for joining me for this probably rambling review of The Man in the Brown Suit by Agatha Christie. So what I've got here is a rather nice little Pan Books edition. It is, the publishing page is actually quite entertaining in its antiquity and confusion. It says that this book was first published in 1924, which the internet agrees with. This edition was published apparently in 1953. And then we have a long list of editions up until the 22nd printing in 1972, which I'm just going to assume is this. I assume this is 1972. As it's a Pan book, it doesn't bother to tell us who did the cover. I think it's a great cover. It's so of its era. But it does tell us in the back that Agatha Christie is the acknowledged queen of detective fiction the world over. So said the Observer, and who am I to doubt the Observer? So we all know Agatha Christie. In the introduction, just before the prologue of this one, she says, "In memory of a journey, some lion stories, and a request that I should someday write The Mystery of the Mill House." We all know Agatha Christie, but we don't all know this book. This is quite an unusual one. So it's her fourth published, and I feel that it, in the reading experience for me, was a bit like reading someone's first book that hadn't quite gelled. Their writing style wasn't completely together. They hadn't quite figured out how to plot a narrative so it progresses smoothly. And the characters are at times, I feel, a little bit shaky. Fourth in the series, the first one was introducing Hercule Poirot. Can't remember if the second or the third was The Secret Adversaries, a book I like very, very much and which I reviewed in the last year or two. There'll be a review somewhere down on the channel. The Man in the Brown Suit I have never read before. I've never managed to get my hands on it before. So Agatha Christie, ubiquitous as she is, I grew up reading her in my teens. She was everywhere. So you'd pick up a book, you'd read it. You wouldn't commit to it. You wouldn't keep it forever, but you enjoyed it. If you went into a second-hand bookshop and you wanted something not challenging, Agatha Christie. If you walked into the library and you were looking for an easy read, Agatha Christie. Always there. Not this one. This one seems to be quite rare, at least in Australia, or at least where I've been looking for Agatha Christie's. I would probably never have this one at all if Steve hadn't found it in an op shop in Brisbane. Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. And purchased it for me. So, in some ways, this is far more of a mystery or thriller than a murder investigation. It does start with a murder. There's a murder that's the motivating thing behind the whole story, but it isn't really about the murder. We start off with a prologue. We've got Nadina, the Russian dancer who had taken Paris by storm. Someone comes to see her. We know she's involved in a criminal ring. Some mastermind called the Colonel arranges crimes. People commit them. He benefits, but no one knows who the Colonel is. Nadine says she does. She's got something on him. She's going to go to England and confront him. Something, whatever. Her companion suggests she not do that, but she goes ahead with that. And that doesn't end well for Nadine, as we all knew it wouldn't. After that very short prologue setting the scene for the whole thing, we encounter what is kind of our prime character, Anne Bedingfield. Anne Bedingfield is a young woman in her early 20s. She has lived at home her whole life, caring for her aging father, who is... where is it? Here we go. My father, Professor Bedingfield, was one of England's greatest living authorities on primitive man. He really was a genius. Everyone admits that. His mind dwelt in Paleolithic times, and the inconvenience of life for him was that his body inhabited the modern world. So Anna spent her whole life caring for her father. We needn't go into that too much. It isn't a big plot element, though the fact that she knows as much about primitive man as her father did comes up a couple of times. It's kind of nice to give our main protagonist a bit more background. Anyhow, when her father dies, she doesn't have a lot of money. I think she's got £24 at the end of the day. And she ends up going to London, staying with her father's lawyer while she looks for a job, which she has to have to make money, etc., etc. Anne Bedingfield, however, is a bit of a romantic dreamer, and she is ready for adventure. So when a man dies before her on the railway platform and she picks up a note, it starts her off on this evolution which has her booking a first-class ticket to Cape Town in South Africa and getting on board with no money and no plans. Anne Bedingfield, I think, is reminiscent of Tuppence in The Secret Adversaries. We've got that same light-hearted, adventurous, headstrong and very capable young woman feel. I did not bond with Anne Bedingfield the way I did with Tuppence, however. It might be that I'm older and the arrant stupidity of youth doesn't always have the same intriguing element to me that it did when I first read The Secret Adversaries at age 12 or whatever. But we all did stupid things when we were young, but jumping on a first-class ticket to Cape Town with £25 trying to look for a murderer doesn't strike me. Doesn't strike me. I wasn't struck. I was unstruck. However, the time aboard the ship is fun. It's got that early English, the Empire, English travelling around their empire type feel to it, and I did enjoy it. So Anne meets a number of people on board. She meets, what is her name? Suzanne Blair, who is a society character. Why she's travelling to South Africa, other than she's bored with life, we never find out. But she's a main friend throughout the narrative. Having the two women sort of sounding off each other works well. We meet a number of other people, including Colonel Race. Colonel Race becomes an ongoing character in Agatha Christie's novels. The man in the brown suit doesn't do him a lot of favour. He does actually become a pretty good character in a very understated, behind-the-scenes sort of ways later on. But here, it seems as if Agatha Christie is making us guess throughout who the bad guy is. And from the way it's set up, it's clearly the bad guy is going to be one of the people on the ship. So we've got Suzanne Blair, we've got Colonel Race, we've got a Reverend Edward Chichester, who seems a bit suspicious, Sir Eustace Pedlar, who seems completely unsuspicious, a bevy of secretaries that he's acquired against his bumbling will, Guy Paget and Harry Rayburn, and a whole lot of shenanigans and things happened, including late at night in the cabin referenced on the piece of notepaper that Anne picked up in the railway. A hand reaches through the grill and drops a film case full of diamonds. It's all about the diamonds. It's fun. It's all a bit of fun. But Colonel Race doesn't do well because Agatha Christie is trying so hard to suggest that everyone might be the bad guy. And I don't know, but to me, by halfway through, the bad guy was I feel that it had been well telegraphed. I defy anyone who reads a lot to reach the end and go, oh wow, I didn't realise that was the Colonel. You didn't? Maybe read more mysteries, love. Anyhow, it is a fun book. They sail off to Cape Town. They get off at Cape Town. In a moment of levity, Sir Eustace Pedlar offers his private train cabin to other travellers who want to go with him to a place that isn't Cape Town. Where was it? Bulawayo? Or some such. He's going to stop there, see the famous The Falls, and then continue on to Rhodesia, where you've got a whole heap of rebellion fomenting. So Eustace has been sent there to find out about it as a private person, but he's also been entrusted with a note by the English government to take there. It's all very mysterious. We don't know why that's happening. He has secretary is Guy Paget, who becomes more and more suspicious throughout. And then we've got Harry Rayban, who is attached to him in a strange and mysterious way before leaving London. Shenanigans throughout. Now, Anne has tried to get herself hired by a newspaper back in London, and she is deep on the hunt, if you will, for the man in the brown suit, who is the reason that the guy died on the railway platform in front of her in London, and who is suspected of having killed the mysterious woman, no one knows who she is, in the Mill House. Of course, we know it's Nadina because we read the prologue. Eventually, they know that it's Nadina, but it doesn't come as much. For something that for a third of the book is the mystery that people want to discover, it's kind of thrown away. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, it was that. So we've got this attempt to create a mystery thriller where all the pieces fall into place eventually, and Anne and her compatriot, who I'm not going to reveal at this point, no spoilers, figure out who the bad guy is and how to entrap them. It doesn't really work a lot of the time. As an adventure story, it works really well. As a bit of a travelogue, it definitely works well. Again, traveling through a world that doesn't exist. The South Africa of the 20s definitely doesn't exist anymore. Anne is victimized on the board. Someone tries to push her over the side of the boat, and we think it might be this person. Aha, but is it? It might be someone else. And then she reaches Cape Town, and further difficult things are happening. Someone's trying to entrap her. Initially, she wasn't going to go to Rhodesia on the train with her friends. She's going to stay behind and watch the suspicious people who stayed behind. But then they arrange to entrap her by claiming that she's a pickpocketer. So she runs for the train, jumps on the board, and joins her friends. Then she's doing some more nosing around in this Bulawayo place, and someone arranges to have her killed in a very interesting way. It's not really a spoiler. It involves her falling off the side of the falls and crashing down, and then she wakes up on an island with the very person she didn't expect to see there. We did, but she didn't. Anyhow, if you want to, you can find the whole plot summary online. I just had a quick read over the Goodreads one and the Wikipedia one, and they're neither of them completely accurate, but that's fine. You read something like this for the fun of progression, not for something else, which is why I would definitely say this feels like a first novel, in that the plot doesn't always progress smoothly. The characters do seem to change. So we've got Suzette, seems like one character initially, then she turns into another character, and then she becomes no character at all. She's just a bit of a Deus Ex Machina for the things that Anne's doing. Anne seems fairly consistent throughout, but we get to hear a lot from Anne's point of view. So chapter 9, for example, is Anne's narrative resumed. So we get Anne's narrative in a lot of the chapters, and then we'll occasionally get chapters that have no particular narrative, and then we've got other characters will narrate individual parts. I think Sir Eustace narrates several, and yes, extract from the diary of Sir Eustace Pedlar. Does Race narrate? I'm not sure. We hear his point of view as well. Anyhow, if you read this in the 2020s, you will know who the bad guy is before the end. Don't worry about it. Enjoy the trip. It's a very atypical Christie. If you don't like Agatha Christie's and you want to read one that isn't your traditional Hercule Poirot type mystery, by all means try this if you like 20s style mystery thrillers, because it is very 20s style. The writing is quite nice, if you can ignore that slight patchy bit. The characters are what they are. They're there to move the story forward. The ending is as satisfying as you would expect. I feel like the ending will be unexpected to exactly no one. I enjoyed it. The Man in the Brown Suit. Very glad to finally have it. Very glad to finally read it. I think I'm only missing about 5 Agatha Christie's now. Thank you for watching. Read good books.